Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're crossing the absolute ultimate boundary to explore something that has literally captivated human imagination for millennia. We're diving deep into the esoteric text, the restoration of dead souls. For as long as humanity has existed, we've kind of been obsessed with the finality of death. But what if that door actually swings both ways? So, let's unpack the fascinating truth explaining resurrections and decode the ancient mechanics of pulling a spirit back from the brink. Let's just jump right in. Okay, let's start by asking the big one, the ultimate question about mortality. What happens when a soul returns? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the implications are absolutely massive. We aren't just talking about a body waking up here. We're talking about a consciousness navigating its way all the way back from the void. And when that boundary of death is crossed in reverse, the state of the returning soul depends entirely on exactly how it was brought back. The method of return literally changes everything about the nature of whatever crosses back over that veil. Take a look at this stark foundational excerpt right from our source material, Necromancy Resurrection. They're joined by a single hyphen, meaning these two incredibly profound concepts are locked into a direct, unending opposition. The text deliberately places them right up against each other because, well, to understand the restoration of souls, you absolutely have to understand the counterfeit. You have to see the shadow to really grasp the light. This juxtaposition right here is the very foundation of the truth explaining resurrections. All right, Section 1. The concept of soul restoration, bridging the great divide. So, to truly understand the restoration of souls, we first have to recognize that coming back from the void isn't just one single unified path. First up, we have necromancy. The text defines this as the dark art of interacting with, binding, or commanding the spirits of the dead. I want you to really focus on those words, binding and commanding. It's essentially the ultimate non-consensual afterlife contract. It focuses entirely on tethering the spirit completely against its will, dragging it to the surface, and forcing it to exist under the strict parameters set by whoever summoned it. It's really more of a hijacking of the soul rather than a healing of it. And that beautifully sets up the stark contrast with our second path, resurrection. This is defined as the complete and true restoration of a dead soul back to a living state. Notice those qualifiers there, complete, true, living. This isn't some parlor trick, and it definitely isn't a hostage situation like necromancy. Resurrection is all about a holistic return, totally unchained from anyone else's command. It's an autonomous, fully realized return to life where the soul actually regains its rightful vessel. Moving on to Section 2, necromancy versus resurrection, the core contrast. When you put these two forces side by side, it perfectly highlights the core conflict of our source text. On one side, necromancy leaves you with an incomplete return. It's this fragmented existence where the soul is essentially a prisoner. On the other side, resurrection is absolute. It is the restoration of souls in their truest, purest form. So we're not just looking at different methods here. These are entirely opposite philosophical and metaphysical outcomes. One is total subjugation, the other is pure liberation. Honestly, the whole thing boils down to this one fundamental takeaway. The difference lies entirely in the autonomy of the soul. Think about it. An autonomous soul is free to choose, free to feel, and free to live. A bound soul? It's really just a puppet on metaphysical strings. The truth explaining resurrections hinges entirely on this idea of free will and agency being fully 100% returned to the deceased. Which brings us to Section 3, the truth explaining resurrections, the mechanics of return. Having established those stark differences, let's walk through the actual truth explaining resurrections, step by step. Step 1 is simply the soul's departure. That's the inevitable crossing over into the void that all mortals have to face. But step 2 is where it gets absolutely fascinating, the rejection of necromantic binding. The text implies that to achieve true resurrection, the soul must actively resist the pull of those puppet strings we talked about. It has to bypass the darker, much easier paths of merely being summoned. And it's only by passing through that specific filter that we can reach step 3, the true restoration of the soul. It's a journey not just of coming back, but of returning whole, autonomous, and undeniably alive. Necromancy is an echo. Resurrection is a true voice. I love this line. This simple but incredibly powerful distinction is exactly what you should take away from the source material. Think about an echo for a second. It's a hollow reflection, right? It degrades over time, it relies entirely on an original sound just to exist. That is necromancy. But a true voice originates its own sound. It has breath, it has intention, and it has actual life behind it. That is the true restoration of a soul. As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought. If a soul is truly restored through resurrection, does it carry the memory of the void? We've talked a lot about autonomy, and we've covered the complete return to a living state. But what luggage comes back on that trip? Does a truly restored autonomous soul remember the absolute silence of the other side? It's a haunting question about the ultimate cost of a soul's return. And for me, it completely reframes how we think about life, death, and that extraordinary journey in between. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the truth explaining resurrections. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.